Hello and good evening. I am Dr. Anthony Brown, a proud staff member of Morning Star Baptist Church, and it is an honor tonight to welcome you to our monthly Renaissance Center chat. These are typically hosted by Dr. Carla J. Debnam, the Executive Director of the Renaissance Center, and she's sitting, let's say, on the other side of the screen tonight, because she is one of our guests. She is one of the center's founders, Dr. Carla J. Debnam. She's sitting on the other side along with Morning Star's pastor, Bishop Dwayne C. Debnam. They're both our guests tonight. This month, we are celebrating the Renaissance Center's 22nd anniversary, 22 years of caring and sharing. So I'm honored to be your host. Welcome all of those on our website, our social media platforms. We'll remind you as we hold our hour-long dialogue tonight, you're welcome to add questions in the chat areas, and we will get those to our guest tonight, Dr. Carla, Bishop Debnam, as we walk this journey, learning a little bit more about the mission and this 22-year celebration for the Renaissance Center. So to get us started, I want to call on Lady Carla first, and forgive me if I go back and forth between calling her Lady Carla and Dr. Carla. She's Executive Director for our Renaissance Center, also First Lady, Lady Carla here at our Morning Star Baptist Church. Dr. Debnam, Dr. Carla, let's start with the basics. What is the mission of the Renaissance Center?
Look, I got to unmute myself. Sorry.
Thank you so much.
The mission of the Renaissance Center is to bring wholeness to people's lives and to reach them where they are. It is holistic in that it looks at the person's, background, their physical health, their emotional health, their other aspects of healing, their spiritual health, so that combining all those things together, that they can get the mental healing that they need. So there is a mission as well to make sure we reach into the community by, being a resource, whether it's through workshops or giving people resource materials or just teaching, just different ways to bring the mental health message to the masses. So that's our mission, is to help people become whole.
Thank you so much, Dr. Debnam. And I'll invite Bishop in, Bishop Debnam, celebrating here, headed toward his 27th year of pastoring here at Morning Star. So the founding of the Renaissance Center 22 years ago. Bishop, let's add some history. What prompted the creation of the center?
Well, again, good evening to everybody who's sharing with us tonight. Again, welcome to our monthly conversation where we try to bring direction, give direction, and help persons can gain that footing in life. When we look at the history of the Renaissance Center, it was, of course, 22 years ago, actually probably 23 or 24 years ago, when we first began having the conversation about what was going on in our community and how we could become a more effective ministry. 24 years ago, persons were asking the question, why was the church starting a mental health component? As we looked at context in that season, it was probably not too different than what we're seeing right now. Persons dealing with addictions, persons dealing with trauma, of course, drama in their lives, families, relationships. And one of the things I recognized as pastor was that I could not preach everything out of everybody. God gives various gifts, various tools to empower men and women to make a difference in life. And so one of the tools for healing, one of the tools of deliverance is preaching, but another tool for deliverance, another tool for healing comes via counseling. And God equipped us with persons in our congregation who were qualified, who were trained, who were prepared to help offer professional counseling to persons. And so as we were looking at ministry and how we could effectively be a more effective ministry, one of the visions that God gave to us was to couple preaching, couple teaching with the mental health profession. If God has equipped persons in ministry to counsel persons, God also wants us to use those persons and those gifts. And so to me, it was a logical teaming of church and mental health professionals to bring more stability, to bring more empowerment and anchoring the person's lives. And so in my mind, although it was new, it was different, it was something that had not been done, at least in this area of ministry, it was something that was necessary. If we were going to bring more wholeness to persons, we had to use every gift that God was making available. And one of those gifts that God was making available was persons within the congregation who were trained, degreed, qualified, and prepared to offer counseling services. And so to me, it was a logical teaming of gifts in the body of believers.
I appreciate that, Bishop. You use that logical teaming of gifts and really connects. As I'm sharing, welcome again to our Renaissance Center monthly chat. I'm Dr. Anthony Brown. I'm joined by Bishop Dwayne C. Debnam. Dr. Carla Debnam is the executive director of the Renaissance Center. Bishop is the pastor of Morning Star Baptist Church, and they co-founded the center. So Bishop, you mentioned logical connection, and it really connects to this theme for the 22nd year, bridging the gap between spiritual health and mental, emotional health. So Lady Carla, I know that the center kind of set the theme. Can you talk more about the theme, which I think echoes what Bishop was saying earlier?
Well, the theme is intentional because what's happened is throughout church history and recent church history, and in fact, that there's been a separation of sorts of the psychological and mental and emotional components of a person versus their spiritual lives, and it's been a disconnect. And what we want people to realize that there is a connection, and bridging that gap is a continuous journey, of people exploring, how can I heal spiritually? We come to the altar, we pray, we fast, we do a lot of different spiritual disciplines. And we want our healing that way, but we also know that God has provided people and through resources, through counseling, psychological testing, medications, is other ways that in addition to our spiritual journey that can be used to give us the healing, the emotional wholeness that we seek. And so if you think about the woman at the well, she came to the well, of course, at a different time of day because of the stigma that she carried as a woman who had been married several times, right? So she made sure she wasn't around the other people, and yet she encountered Jesus, and he gave her, that healing, the living water, that she would not thirst again. But also in that encounter, she was able to be strengthened and healed of her past enough to go back and tell other people, hey, I got my healing. And it was in an unusual way, but here is someone that can help you. And so we're doing the same thing. We're the eyes, the hands, the feet of Jesus, helping people to see that, yeah, you may come in one way, you may come with a stigma attached to you because of your decisions, your life circumstances, your addictions, your things that make you different and stand out and have been troubling you, but you can go away healed and saying, come see a man who told me everything I know. But in this case, come see and experience healing through, professional counseling services.
Trained professional counseling service. Bishop, if you can, so 22 years ago, you mentioned what was going on. And as we look at what was going on, I guess the traditional, if I had an issue, I came and I talked to the pastor. And if it wasn't resolved after that one session, maybe I came and talked to the pastor again. So what was the bridging like for you when you suggested to persons, we're now offering a counseling center, you may want to go and talk to these trained professionals? What was that bridge like for you?
That's a good question. I think one of the things that every pastor, especially Black pastor, has to come to grips with is that you can't do everything. In the history of the Black church, the pastor has been looked to be counselor, to be tax advisor, to be family advisor, to give you any type of advice that you needed. However, one of the things that we have to be honest about is that we don't know everything, and it's okay to, as I mentioned earlier, to tap into the gifts, the other gifts that are in the house. If everything is in the house, if everything that you need is in the body of believers, then we have to recognize that those persons are there to be used. And so part of bridging the gap was coming to the reality that I don't have to do everything. However, there are persons in ministry who are prepared to do the things that I'm not perhaps gifted to do, degreed to do, or qualified to do. Yes, I have my master's divinity. Yes, I have a doctorate of ministry. However, our counselors are specialized in certain areas. I can perhaps open a door to a conversation for you, and I can take you through a counseling session. But do I have the expertise in every area, and do I have the time? If my primary focus is preaching and teaching, there are other persons who God has made counseling their primary focus who can devote more time to it. And so one of the realities I came to, and part of the bridging the gap was, hey, there are persons who God has positioned to assist me. We read the text in the Bible when up on the mountain, Moses had to have his arms held up. Holding the pastor's arm up is not always a physical thing. It's sometimes lending your gifts, which is to support the pastor in doing ministry. So one of the things I realized was there are persons who God has gifted to hold up my arms by using the gifts that they have in the body of believers. And so Lady Carla was being prepared. The other persons who were being prepared and had been prepared to function in this area. In the church, we have to recognize there are persons who are dealing with some serious issues, some serious concerns, who need assistance sometimes. And it's all right to tap into persons for the needs that you have. And so we saw within the congregation so many persons who are already prepared and trained in this area who could help our membership become more stable and more anchored in the journey called life.
Thank you so much, Bishop. Again, if you're online with us on our website, social media pages, first of all, why don't you spread the word, share, and let others know that we're on for the next 40 minutes or so. I have with me Bishop Dwayne C. Debnam, pastor of Morning Star Baptist Church, Dr. Carla J. Debnam. She's the executive director of the Renaissance Center. Renaissance Center is an outreach, professional, licensed counseling center and outreach ministry of the church, and they're celebrating 22 years Their contact information is there on the screen if you want to learn more about them. And we're just having a conversation tonight. Their theme is bridging the gap between spiritual and mental health. Bishop, I want to just go back to something you said. You said persons sitting in the congregation who are licensed professional, and both you and Lady Carla can, I just want to paint the picture for the person watching. It's not just anybody from the church. It's persons who have degrees, except it's confidential. It's a professional service. If you could speak to that, you are Lady Carla.
Yeah, it's just like person, when you go to your medical doctor, on the wall to their office are their degrees, the school they went to, their credentialing. At Renaissance Center, we have this, it's the same thing. These are not persons who just woke up one morning and said, oh, I want to be a counselor. No, these are persons who God has properly prepared to do the work of ministry. Counseling is ministry. God's properly prepared them, licensed them. They've gone to school. They've been credentialed. They've taken their tests. They got all these letters behind their names. And it's not just random stuff. It's persons who, just like in every area, we have accountants, we have doctors, we have lawyers, we have counselors. And what we have to learn to do in our community is to recognize the need to talk to persons who can help you. I know oftentimes, and I know Lady Carla's gonna pick up on this. In our community, the story is we'll go to the barber shop and talk about whatever is going to happen in our life and expect the barber to give us the answers for life. We'll go sit in a bar on a bar stool and let the guy who's pouring out drinks give us the advice. That's an interesting place to get advice for life from. I mean, it may work in some, but how about talking to someone who is properly credentialed, degreed, and trained to listen to you and give you expert advice, not just advice that they've heard at the other end of the bar, but advice that, really can make a difference in your life. Carla.
Excellent. Lady Carla, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I would say, for people, wondering the need for it, it is, it's a need if you are struggling, and it is accessible. What we did to create the Renaissance Center, the team that came together to put various aspects of the program together, we went and visited various counseling centers that were affiliated with churches. We know there are independent counseling centers that are not church affiliated, but we wanted to do research with those that were connected with their denomination and or local church, and found that there were none for African American churches. So most of the churches we visited were all predominantly, white churches and of other denominations. So not even Baptist. So we went around, did that research, and like their model. So we took the model was you were a part of the church, but you were in a separate space. So that was always important to us, to be in a separate space. And, our initial space was 135 Winters Lane, the little house. And then we eventually moved to 10 Winters Lane, which was a small office building, which was,
I think about 3,000 square feet, I believe. So
right. Yes, it was great. 2
space.
levels. It was a great access to Old Frederick Road, so it's right there in Catonsville. And then we moved, to 6665 Security Boulevard. That was another, spacious area where we, occupy half of the upper level. Now, those were the days when we were seeing people in person and all that. So we'll get to how things have changed,
Yes.
once we get to that part. But but it was a great experience. It was great to be able to give people, and I posted, right, our graphic, the anniversary graphic, and people chimed in. I'm glad I came there.
That's
It
all.
really helped my life. You know, it was a blessing to me. I saw somebody, I went to a viewing a couple weeks ago, and they said, you know, I'm glad I came to the Renaissance Center. You know, it really helped me when I was going through a tough time in my marriage. And a lot of these people I don't know, because, you know, I don't see everybody. So it was great that they came through, got what they needed, and was able to have a productive life after getting some services.
Thank you so much,
I
Dr.
want to
Debnam. Yes, Bishop.
Let me throw something in real quick. Carla mentioned that persons come to the center sometimes when they have concerns, things they're grappling with in life, but also there's a need for healthy persons to come also. You don't have to have a problem per se to have a counselor. For instance, your medical doctor, you go every year praying that you're still well and hoping to get a good report. We have to learn to do the same, treat our mental health the same way. You don't have to have a marriage problem, a relationship problem, a financial problem to seek a counselor. Sometimes you go just to maintain your stability. And so I think that's important that we put that on the table tonight also.
I think it's excellent, Bishop. I think over 22 years, the Renaissance Center obviously has seen thousands of individuals, and that's for the emergency problem, for marriage counseling. There have been interns who've come through the Renaissance Center to get their hours, to get their credentialing. So thank you for that reminder, Bishop. Sort of just our checkup, our mental health checkups are important. Bishop, Lady Carla, we hear this word, you knew this question was coming, the stigma associated with counseling, the stigma. I heard it a lot more 20, 21 years ago. Here is the stigma still there? We look at celebrities who will now be real vocal about their mental health struggles. We've seen suicides. So is it less of a stigma associated with counseling? And Bishop, if you want to start, and Lady Carla want to follow, have we moved beyond that yet? Or are we moving beyond that?
I'm hoping that we're moving beyond it.
Okay.
I'm not sure we moved totally beyond it yet. We may be moving in that direction. It is great. I guess it's the right word to use when athletes come out and talk about they're in therapy, they're in counseling. Hip hop artists come out talking about how they're in therapy, and celebrities, which is good because I think it's established a model for us to take a look at and say, okay, it's okay. We have to get to a point in our community where we're able to say it's okay to talk. It's okay not to have all the answers. It's okay to look for someone else to help give me some direction. It's okay when I'm not feeling right to go and let someone know, hey, I'm not feeling right. Perhaps one of the things I'm going to try to weave a couple things together here. It's alarming to hear so many persons that a suicide rate is growing in our community, and while at the same time hear that so many persons who are models, persons who are looked up to in our community are doing counseling, doing therapy, yet at the same time suicides are increasing. Mass shootings are increasing, which sometimes could be a result of a mental health disorder, perhaps, not always, but sometimes it could be. So we have to, so I think we're moving in the right direction. I'm still not certain if we moved away from it being a taboo to talk about in our homes, in our relationships, because still we still oftentimes in our community think that to get through a problem, Or I just get a drink, and when I wake up, it'll be over. I can just go get high, and day or so I'll feel better. That's not true. So is there still a stigma? I would say it's still, maybe Carla probably talking even more intelligently about it than I can. We may be moving in the right direction, but something tells me it's still there, which is why we're still wrestling with so many issues in our community now.
Sounds good. Late,
Yeah.
Dr. Debnam?
Yeah, I would agree that we're moving towards less stigma, but the stigma is still there because of a number of reasons, like during the COVID pandemic, people were resistant to taking the vaccines because of our prior history with being, tested without consent, for certain drugs and lack of treatment in certain cases, and being the guinea pigs in certain studies, whether psychological studies or medical. So people have trust issues with the medical profession. Then we have the stigma related to our ethnicity, depending on what area of the country you're from. The stigma could be greater sometimes in the South than maybe in the North, or if you're in a rural community versus a more metropolitan area. So that's what we're seeing. The stigma is in pockets, and it's not just across the board, where some people, like we said, the more prominent people or people that are in certain occupations are opening up to it, but some people is still like, I don't have the money. So money is a thing that people think is a barrier, but hey, if you buy a fifth, come on, that's your therapy copay. If you get your hair and nails done, skip that so you can get some therapy. So some things are stigmas because of cost, culture, and the community that the people are in, the accessibility. So if I'm in a rural area, it's probably less options for me to see a culturally competent therapist than it would be if I'm in the metropolitan areas around the country. So this is, again, where I'm going to put in the telehealth therapy that has helped, because that has helped people, whether you're in Appalachia or in Annapolis, we can all, log in and get some help. And there is an act, it's called the Counseling Portability Act, where the American Counseling Association is working to get, if you're licensed in one state, you can become licensed in all the others that are in agreement with this statement. So this would be great for everybody, because it just means more people will have access. Because think about it, if I have like 100 therapists in Annapolis, but I only have one in Appalachia, that one is going to be worn out. And we need the people in one place to be able to service the people that are less serviceable. So this is the hope. So the stigma can be reduced by accessibility of the services and normalizing it. The more we talk about it, like these RC chats, and when we go in the community as resources and do workshops, that's normalizing the conversation, so people can say, this is a normal option. This isn't something because I'm messed up and something's wrong with me. I'm not doing all I can. I'm not a spiritually whole person. It's a part of who we are, and God created these options for us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Debnam, and Bishop and Lady Carla. And for those who may just have started joining us, you're on our website or you're on our social media pages. You are listening to the Renaissance Center chat. It is a monthly chat that's usually hosted by Dr. Carla J. Debnam, sponsored by our Renaissance Christian Counseling Center. I'm sitting in as host today, and my guests are Bishop Debnam, Dr. Debnam. They are the co-founders of the Renaissance Center. Renaissance Center is celebrating its 22nd anniversary this month. If you're interested in their services, information is on your screen, 410-409-0025. Again, 410-409-0025, the Renaissance Center.org. Their theme for this season is bridging the gap between spiritual health and mental health. Dr. Debnam, Bishop Debnam, if you could speak just for a moment. Bishop, I had the opportunity to be in other conversations with yourself. You talked about going to your medical doctor, et cetera. I think this is on both sides, that becoming better takes work. Your spiritual health, your mental health. Bishop, can you talk to, because you made the analogy, I go to my medical doctor, and if my blood pressure is up, I work on my weight and I do exercise, et cetera. I think maybe people, they wonder, so if I go to the counseling, do I just go once? Well, how long is this going to take, et cetera? So the work involved, Bishop, maybe if you start that our spiritual journey takes work, takes commitment, takes time, and maybe Lady Carla follows on to kind of paint a picture for those who are watching about the work and commitment it takes to become whole.
Yeah, that's good. Let me add this also. We encourage persons, you have questions tonight,
Yes.
write them in the chat. Our team will get them to us. We do want to hear your questions tonight also. It is, wholeness is a journey. Wholeness is a journey, and it takes discipline, it takes dedication, it takes determination, it takes the desire to want to be the best that I can. I oftentimes like illustrating athletes, and tonight I believe it's two things that happen tonight in the sports world. The Major League Baseball All-Star Game and the ESPY Awards are on tonight, I believe, also. Or the All-Star Game is on. And it was interesting is all those athletes, to become the best, they devote so much time and effort into their bodies, their minds, making sure they're eating right, making sure that they are exercising right, and they are devoted to being the best athlete possible. Interesting, isn't it? That we have the opportunity to be the best person possible, but in order for that to happen, it takes time. It takes commitment. It takes the discipline. It takes determination. It takes desire. If we're going to be the best persons that we can possibly be, it means being spiritually strong, spiritually focused. It means being mentally stable, mentally strong. That means being emotionally stable. It means being physically fit. It takes so much to be the best person that you can. And the question becomes is, do you really want to be the best? Or are you simply comfortable fitting in and being like everybody else? The desire, I hope, that all of us have is to be the best that we can. And to be the best that we can be, that it requires us putting in the time. Many persons in their careers, to be the best teacher, to be the best barber, to be the best janitorial worker, it requires time, dedication, discipline, and effort. Don't you want to be the best that you can be? And so therefore, if you do, recognize, my mama used to say, Rome was not built overnight. It took time and effort, commitment, dedication. We have to be willing to put the same amount of effort into being best person. It's not enough to say I'm okay. Have the vision, have the desire that I want to be a whole person. And for that to happen, it's going to require some work. Carla?
Yeah, I would say that the initial process is, of course, finding a therapist that fits. So, that you don't sometimes connect with the first person that you meet, but it's important that you connect with the person in order to get the most out of the journey. So once you begin the journey, you set goals, and there is work that you have to do as you grow. You set goals, you want to grow, you have to do some things that would help you grow. And of course, if you have, certain diagnosis besides therapy, you might need medication, see a psychiatrist or psychiatric nurse practitioner, or someone that can prescribe meds, or primary care physician. But it's becomes a holistic journey. So what we're seeing now, you find a therapist, you get on some meds if necessary. You don't always need meds. You can usually, depending on the severity of your situation, and there are other things you can do. For instance, the exercise. So we heard Bishop mention exercise. You can get a healthy diet. So certain foods can trigger, certain mood swings. So you have to know more about yourself in all areas. So your emotional triggers that keep you up at night, or that drive you to eat or to use substances, these are things that therapy can help you to decipher. It's a new book out called Why Am I Like This? I love the title. So, and it's kind of like, those are some questions you can ask yourself: why am I like this? But take it a step further, and what can I do about it if I don't like how I am? If I find that how I am is keeping me from, as we like to say in the culture, living my best life. And sometimes, in order to live your best life, you have to get some help. You have to get a team, your primary care, your family, friends, a therapist, and your faith. So you have to use all of these things sometimes to be the best person you want to be. And it's okay. And that's helping to reduce the stigma. It's okay if you need a little help sometimes, because we all do.
That's great, Dr. Debnam. Again, for those who are with us tonight, of course, you're on our social media page, our website. You're listening to Dr. Carla J. Debnam, Executive Director for the Renaissance Center, Bishop Dwayne C. Debnam. He's pastor of Morning Star Baptist Church. Renaissance Center is an outreach ministry of the church. You can get information on the center, 410-409-0025, 410-409-0025. They're celebrating 22 years of bridging the gap between spiritual health and mental health. Bishop, a question for the pastors who are watching. You spoke earlier that the pastor has to understand they can't do it all. They can't be the solution for every situation. Bishop, on the spiritual side, has your preaching evolved over the past 20 years to embrace this need to address and be sensitive to the mental health of persons? Has your preaching evolved?
Definitely. I can think of sermons that I have intentionally preached based upon pointing persons to be in mental wholeness. There's a couple passages in the scripture. For instance, Elijah one day finds himself in a rough situation. He had been pressured by life. He had been pressured by enemies. And he goes out and sits on a tree one day and tells God to just let him die because the mental stress and strain he was under. I think so often we overlook the stress and strain that builds on persons and the layers of stress and strain that's developed. And we have to learn as preachers, as pastors, number one, we have to address those issues sermonically, but also when we address them, we need persons in place to help bring those person's thoughts together, empower them, give them a level of stability. Because once we uncover us or pull a scab off, we also be prepared to deal with the pus that comes from it. And that's where we're partnering with our mental health professionals. There's sermons that on a regular basis uncover wounds, pains that persons have dealt with throughout their lives. And we've got to make sure that when as we are bringing these things to surface, there's something in place to handle what comes as a result of what we preach. Because we're preaching about where people are, but once we preach about where they are, what are we doing with things that are uncovered, that have been again hidden or behind closed doors for so many years? So
And
that's where
Bishop,
the partnering comes from.
there's a question in our chat while you're right there that asked, how can you tell if it's a mental health issue or if it's a spiritual issue? I don't know if Lady Carla wants to take that question, but I heard you going in that direction where you use that analogy of once we pull a scab, or, we've got to deal with the issue. So is that part of the process, the mental health process of discovering what the issue is? Because maybe it's not so black and white what it is.
Probably go right. Yep. You're still on mute.
Dr. Debnam.
Sorry, y'all.
Mhm.
I like what you said, Dr. Brown, that it's a process of determining if it's spiritual or is it mental. And so a lot of times we hear people, I hear it all the time, prayers for deliverance, right, from certain mental health disorders, which of course we want deliverance. So prayer and deliverance is always on the table, but also I like to use the lepers that Jesus said, you are healed, but go show yourselves to the priest. So it's a process of healing. So the healing had begun. It was already a done deal when he said it. And hey, was it, we know they had a physical condition, but they also it had to be met spiritually as well. And so I would say it's not always either or. Is this a spiritual thing or a mental thing? Again, God has created us and we're so, fearfully and wonderfully made that
Amen.
the spiritual issues can impact our mental health and vice versa. Our mental health can impact our spiritual issues. And it is not, I mean, this is how I feel anyway, that's my opinion, but we have the pastor on here, the bishop, that it is not a sign of a lack of faith if you have to seek mental health counseling of any kind. It's not a lack of faith if you need your blood pressure medicine. It's not a lack of faith if you need knee surgery. None of these things means you don't believe God for your healing. And so I would love to, like that. I'm just saying that. So yes, some things are spiritually discerned and come from that, but some things are emotional and mental. And it's sometimes interwoven. And so that's why it's important to really see somebody that's spiritually in tune with mental health as well, because it's an art to tease between the two of whether this is all spiritual, which it normally isn't. Maybe it could be you're anxious because you have some unforgiveness. It's delicate. And so that's why I don't jump to it's one or the other. It's probably connected. And it's so.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I asked Pastor the question about how his preaching had evolved. How have the services of the Renaissance Center evolved over the past 22 years?
Yeah, I would say it's evolved. It's still human, person to person. We do a lot of still, individual, family, couples, groups. So that's still a part of it. But of course, we mentioned telehealth. That's a part of it. Also offering groups and things online, but also offering persons, I'll say, or introducing them to alternative therapies, meaning things that help in addition to therapy. So we've been doing the meditation with Jordan. We've had yoga with Mia. We've done different things, bringing different other resources over the years. We have had, art therapists, dance therapists, people that do and specialize in different things. And even if we don't, currently have some of those disciplines, it's enough of people in the community that, we can make sure we refer people to those, because some of the mental health conditions are better treated through the arts. So these are things you learn and grow over the years, and being exposed to, whether it's the arts, meditation, exercise, yoga, groups of different kinds. So that's what I would say, how we've expanded beyond also, servicing people with, a variety of insurances and other ways that we can help persons, get the services that they need.
Thank you so much. And I'll mention for programs like the meditation, the art therapy, I know there's a current meditation series, I believe right now. The Renaissance Center website is www.therenaissancecenter.org, www.therenaissancecenter.org. The Renaissance Center, it's an outreach ministry of the church, Dr. Debnam. If I don't profess a Christian faith, can I come to the Renaissance Center? Are the services open to everybody?
Yes, the services are open to everybody. We see everybody from every walk of life, and we have since the beginning. So it's not, what has made us, unique is that we were founded, by a church, and our foundation is in our faith and our Christian principles, but we service everyone in the community, and we've seen people from, again, all walks of life, all cultures, and that's been a blessing that is able to transcend, cultures, because everybody needs some help sometimes.
That's good. Lady Carla, what's some of your greatest achievements? What do you celebrate about these 22 years as you look back?
Well, I'll celebrate one thing you mentioned, being a site for interns over the years. That has been a blessing, to be able to help train, be a training ground for therapists of all ethnicities and backgrounds. So that's one of the greatest blessings. So we get to share, and with the world, people who have been trained with the help of the Renaissance Center. So that's been good. Also, being able to just help others start their counseling centers. So we were a model for other churches that began their counseling ministries, a year or two, after we began. So I'm proud that we were a model for other ministries that started counseling ministries and services. And also just proud that I was able to see a vision come to reality, and that sometimes we get a vision of, and we don't know how it's going to work. It's just something that's a way out. But this was able to come to pass because of just the dynamics of our church and ministry, and the people of Morning Star being open to doing new and different things. So that's what's been exciting to me. And seeing lives change. Like I said, seeing some of the responses on Facebook, and even when I go out and about and people might share again their experiences. So that's been rewarding as well.
Bishop, sort of the same question. Having the Renaissance Center as a tool in your package of ministry offerings from Morning Star for the past 22 years, what do you celebrate about that fact?
So with the fact that we have been able to help persons see that, number one, you can be spiritually strong and mentally stable, but it's a journey, it's a process. Seeing persons healed, seeing persons whole, seeing this vision impact so many lives. One of the things that amazes me, and I'll share this, is when we initially opened the Renaissance Center, so many persons were skeptical about why we were doing it. Again, why is a church opening a mental health facility? But it's amazing to see how over the years, so many other ministries have done just the same, because they see it. Sometimes you have to go out there, take that faith step, knowing that you've heard from God, knowing that God has spoken to you, do what God says, even though you are questioned. And so seeing the Renaissance Center be sustained for 22 years, 22 years is a long time. And they have been able to sustain themselves. So I take great pride in seeing the work that they've done and seeing how it has lit a fire in so many other ministries to do the same.
And you know, Bishop, I'm thinking, and we should applaud this also, as we look at, and I did have this question about the colliding pandemics of COVID, et cetera, as we look at some of the outgrowth of the pandemic, and the government was looking for places to put resources to offer mental health services, the Renaissance Center was one of those locations. Can you speak to that yourself or Lady Carla?
Oh yeah, it's because culture knew, government knew that with the pandemic and so many other colliding forces, economic turmoil, job issues, family issues, political chaos, and a pandemic that we had never seen before. Government rather was willing to invest dollars in what they knew would bring more stability to people. And so Renaissance Center being able to already be in position, again, grant money became available to assist the work that they do. And so we were able to offer free counseling to so many persons throughout the pandemic because of this. And we take pride in the fact that we were positioned to offer the persons what was needed before they knew they would need it.
Yeah, and Pastor, I think if you can speak to this also, and Lady Carla, you can add something to that question. Pastor, this bridging the gap between spiritual health and mental health, if you can just speak to another part of that bridge has been the economics of it, you know, that you have to operate a counseling center and it costs dollars to operate it. But I think the ministry has done that with some sensitivity because they wanted to offer that to the community. So some of that has been bridging the gap also.
Oh yeah, for years, the church has had to subsidize a lot of the work of the Renaissance Center, but we knew it was a necessity because it's about wholeness for our people. And so we had to budget money each year to help with the staffing. We've had full-time counselors, part-time counselors, full-time admin, part-time admin, executive director at the Renaissance Center, and who were paid persons, not volunteers. These are professionals. So we had to set aside dollars to make that happen, but it's well worth the investment because what we're seeing is wholeness, people becoming whole again, people smiling again, people laughing again, families coming back together. Carla?
Yeah, I would say it has been a labor of love And I'm grateful for the support of the Morning Star Baptist Church and and other partners. And I know finances does become a concern when people see this journey, and it can sometimes be a short journey, like 6 weeks, or it can be 6 months or 6 years, depending on the nature of your concern. And so while you're making a financial investment in your health, know that we as Morning Star Baptist Church we're partnering and making an investment by even having, these services available. And though we have partnered over the years with other organizations to bring mental health to the community, to the masses, it still takes regular, operating funds. And grants can't do it all. I know a lot of people want to say grants has sustained them, but grants plus donations plus budget items and those things, it's a conglomerate of things that have helped us to survive for 22 years, and we're excited about that. This helps me to segue. We have a Facebook, Instagram fundraiser, and you can always go to our website and donate if you would like to, because the vision and mission is worthwhile. It's great to see lives transformed and made new, and just seeing people live, in the words of the culture, their best life, because they took time out of their day and life to get some treatment. So that's, I would say that. And also, while I have the floor, if you are interested and you have your credentials, LCPC, LCSWC, a licensed psychologist, give us a call so we can connect with you, because we are hiring.
That's great. The Renaissance Center, again, for that connection information, 410-409-0025. It's on the screen. I'll say it again, 410-409-0025. It's their anniversary month. They were founded in July 2001, 22 years ago. The renaissancecenter.org. If you could benefit from the services of the Renaissance Center, call them. Dr. Debnam also mentioned, if you're a clinician, licensed clinician, call them for employment, job opportunities. 22 years of bridging the gap, the Renaissance Christian Counseling Center. I want to thank our guests for tonight, Dr. Carla J. Debnam, Bishop Dwayne C. Debnam. Great thing, bridging the gap. For those who don't know, Bishop is the pastor headed toward his 27th year, pastor of Morning Star Baptist Church here in Woodlawn, 1512 Woodlawn Drive, services each Sunday, 7:15, 9:15, 11:30 a.m. I got to promote that because it's the bridge. So I'm doing the spiritual side. All right, so I got to do the spiritual side also. But what a commitment from Bishop Debnam. What a commitment from Lady Carla Debnam. She mentioned the fundraiser. It's on Facebook and Instagram. Go to the Renaissance Center or the Morning Star Baptist page. If you've benefited from their service, your marriage counseling, or you had therapy, make a donation to the Renaissance Center as they celebrate 22 years. I'm going to give first Bishop, and then we'll end with Lady Carla. Any closing statements from yourself, Bishop, as we prepare to close tonight?
My closing statement simply would be making sure that you are taking care of you, so making sure you can be a whole person, spiritually, mentally, physically, as well as emotionally. And let's support our Renaissance Center financially. I encourage every person who can give a gift of at least $22 to help them celebrate 22 years of ministry. Amen.
Amen.
Dr. Debnam?
Yep. I would like to again thank all the persons that have come through the Renaissance Center and those staff and students that we've trained over the years for making the vision possible. We put in a lot of work and effort and thought into this ministry, and we thank God for sustaining it and keeping us. And if we cross your minds, keep us and the Renaissance Center staff in your prayers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Debnam. Again, to everyone who has watched tonight, this will continue and be available on our social media platforms. Share the link. Share the link for if persons weren't able to join us tonight, or also be on our website. The Renaissance Center chat happens monthly, second Tuesday of each month, an array of topics hosted by Dr. Carla J. Debnam. I'm going to give out the number one more time, 410-409-0025, 410-409-0025. If you could use their services, call tonight. Call tonight. Leave a message. Don't put it off. We know what happens when we say we'll get to it. We don't often get to it. And I'm going to steal one of Lady Carla's words. You are worth it. You are worth it. God is offering you wholeness. You are worth it. Bridging the Gap, 22 years. Happy anniversary to the Renaissance Center Executive Director, Dr. Carla J. Debnam, pastor of Morning Star Baptist Church, Bishop Dwayne C. Debnam. Have a great night. Lady Carla will talk to you next month on the Renaissance